Hey, what's up? This is Kevin from Kevin's Barbecue Joints, and this episode is a really cool one. It's a bonus episode, so to speak, but it's long, so it's not like a 5 minute bonus episode. What I've done is I've interviewed a lot of people, and I've always made a YouTube version. Well, I filmed it, and so I've cut a YouTube version, but some of them I've rushed out. There's been two or three that I've rushed out, and one of them which is Sheldon Mason's one from Mason Barbecue. But I've always been meaning to cut at the YouTube version so you could see Sheldon, see what he's all about, and his interview is so great. It's very important that you see him. But a lot has happened to Sheldon since that interview, so I wanted to revisit things with him, see where he's at, and let you guys know where he's at, and then also have that YouTube version. So if you're listening to the podcast version is just the new portion, and I'll have a link to Sheldon's previous interview, which I would recommend listening to again. In cutting it, I learned a lot more about. He's very insightful. He's got big things coming. Not even things that we really talk about, but you could just tell he's very cerebral. He loves food and barbecue and camaraderie. I would recommend following along with what he does. He's now at 2M Smokehouse in San Antonio, working with Esaul and Joe and the team there, and it's so interesting. We talk more about 2M, and 2M should be on your radar. If you haven't visited 2M Smokehouse, head down to San Antonio. It's not that far away. They're putting out exceptional food. This also gets into the weeds of what Sheldon's all about as a core, about his passions, such as barbecue and music and cast iron and coffee. Also talk about like his business philosophy, and we get into Hedley and Bennett, and we get into Howlin Rays. We get into a lot of different things, which it's intriguing and interesting. So if you're watching on the YouTube version, there'll be a break from the newest version to the previous interview. I would stick in. You'll learn a lot. Trust me. Thank you again, Sheldon, for taking the time. And if you're digging these interviews, please subscribe to the podcast or the YouTube channel or both. That way you don't miss out. You can see me on social media at Kevin's BBQ Joints on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff. I also have a website at kevinsbbqjoints.com with links to all the podcasts, the YouTube stuff, original content, a lot of cool new stuff that I have coming up, and a lot of cool new stuff that I've been putting up. So check that out. But in the end, thank you guys for listening, watching. I do appreciate it. Have a great week. Thank you. If we're going to do that, we might as well revisit, because there's been some things that have been updated since.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's kind of crazy too, because I'd forgotten all about the video version of it. I kind of just forgot about it.
I kind of did too. I was like going through. I'm like, because I have a list of like people that I need to edit and everything, and then it's like Sheldon, and it says like need to edit of YouTube. I'm like, oh shit, I forgot.
Yeah, I mean, just put it in line with everything else you got going on. I totally get it, man.
No, I know, but still, I want that version because I think it's cool. So this will be cool. It'll be kind of a new way to refresh kind of what you're doing. What so we kind of started. You're not in Montana anymore, are you?
No, I moved to Texas now, so I'm working at 2M Smokehouse now. I'm kind of doing the whole Texas barbecue dream that I always wanted to do. I didn't really talk about it with a lot of people. Certain people knew I was going to come here. I didn't really make it kind of like I didn't want to make news out of it or anything. Not that I'm some crazy celebrity or anything like that. Like anybody was really wondering where I was going.
But it's like the typical Sheldon style. You just pop up somewhere.
Yeah, that kind of goes with my whole MO, I guess you'd say. Yeah, so now I'm here doing that full time. You know, I'm done with the Air Force chapter of my life.
How do you feel with that? How do you feel with that chapter going away?
You know, it was kind of an easy transition for me, I guess. I'd kind of been transitioning the last several years to kind of just go ahead, and I knew this is what I was going to do. And people, they always knew that this is where I was going to end up. I'd be in the barbecue and then the food industry somewhere, because I'd been talking. People just knew that that's what I was going to do, because I talked about it so much, and that's what I was going to do one day. And then if I didn't do it, then I felt like I didn't hold up my end of the bargain, because people just asked, what do you want to do when you're done? I want to cook food. I want to make barbecue. I just want to bring that happiness and that passion to everybody.
And personally, I think you would have felt unfulfilled.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, there were other things I could have done. Honestly, I could have went and did the whole the follow-on Air Force career, which is most people do civilian contractor, and they go work at a lot of places. And I respect that, the people that want to go do that. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just not what I wanted to do. I did 20 years of this, and it was time for me to I just say we'll turn the page, like Bob Seger used to say. So,
just like he used to say it, definitely.
Yeah,
it's a great line. It's a great line.
So I guess he's still currently saying it, just in an older body or whatever. The music world and the music industry is a whole another
And
We can talk about music
that's a
all
whole
day too.
passion for you too. And that's also too. I kind of wanted to shed just a tiny bit of light onto the coffee music, but in some way to weave in. I don't know how we'll do it, but I think that people need to know that you're multifaceted. There's a lot of interests that you have.
Yeah, the rabbit hole goes kind of deep with me. Most people that are close friends of mine, I had that. We can kind of circle back to a few of these things. Like Evan and I spent like 2 weeks basically together going to Chicago back in July for the Windy City Smokeout thing. So we drove there and drove back. So we had a lot of in-depth conversations and talked quite a bit about just life, music, and we share a lot of the same interests. Yeah, it's kind of crazy how all these things are kind of connected in a weird way. Music, food, barbecue, if you want to call it that, coffee, all these things are kind of things that I'm very passionate about. So,
And they, like you said, they bring people pleasure. It's like a way to share and to share like a commonality, a human commonality that we all have.
oh yeah, absolutely. I think that just the brotherhood of those things bringing people together is just something that I don't know. It's been passed down to me definitely from what my grandmother bestowed on me when I was younger. It was all about. She never really ate. She walked around. She cooked because she was a chef, and then she kind of passed that on to me when I was just a little dude. And that's kind of where I used to just mirror her and follow her around all the time. And I loved that because for her, it was more or less she would graze just to taste the food. But the actual satisfaction was from her seeing other people enjoy what she did and put all this hard work in. And I think that's kind of where I think that's where I got it from, really. I don't really know anywhere else I would have gotten it from. It's just the enjoyment of just, I don't know, the sheer excitement of people really enjoying things.
What was your favorite dish that she cooked?
She did this crazy stuffed flounder, and it's very intricate. It's a southern dish because, we talked about before I grew up in the Gulf Coast, so seafood is just crazy everywhere. Mm-hmm. So she would go get these really fresh fillets, but then it had this crazy like cracker. It was a cracker, like saltine cracker based stuffing that would have shrimp and all this other. It was basically like a Thanksgiving dinner, but like it was kind of like the most I can relate it to is sort of like what you would get out of like a turkey stuffing, but obviously it's a little different. Mm-hmm. But that's what she would stuff that with, and it would have crab and it have other seafood in it, and it was just she would compliment it and then just kiss it with this lemon on the top at the very end, and it was. I've spent my life trying to recreate it. I can recreate a lot of her things, but she gave me the recipe years ago, and I can't make it just like her, and it's been one of the things that I've been chasing. It's sort of like chasing the dragon. I've been trying to find it and get back to that moment my whole life. One day I'm gonna do it, sort of like her Southern style cornbread dressing. That's one of the things that I've been able to master. My mother can't even make it. We talk about it. In fact, we just had a conversation a few days ago about Thanksgiving because every year we circle back to this conversation about the dressing that it made. Well, in other parts of the country, like say on the East Coast and whatnot, they call it stuffing, but in the South, it's cornbread dressing.
Gotcha. Okay.
So,
interesting. I don't know if I've ever had cornbread dressing before. I haven't.
Oh, it's unbelievable. You use a chicken stock, and basically you just take a fresh pan of cornbread. It's crazy because I'll spend, X amount of time making this beautiful pan of cornbread, and I basically just destroy it and then put it in a casserole dish, then add the stock to it and all this other stuff back into it, and then you just bake it and basically pull a lot of the moisture out of it. But you still want to make it wet so it's nice and it's really, really soft. But it's what we ate at Thanksgiving time. Growing up, for me, that's what we had. And hers was like second to none. Like it was something that I look forward to it, and she cooked so much food when we were growing up, so we never ran short of that stuff during the holidays for sure.
And she's not with us anymore, is she?
No, she passed away. She lived she was 93, so she had a good long life.
Nice.
Yeah. Now my dad's parents, they're still alive. That was on my mother's side.
Wow.
Yeah, so my dad's parents are both still alive, so I've been very lucky to be able to have.
We're gonna have Sheldon alive for a long time, huh? You have some good genes.
I mean, fingers crossed.
Yeah, exactly.
I hope I can live a long, fulfilled life. I mean, that's the goal, right? Just to be able to, I don't know, maybe just make your mark or try to leave a legacy behind for somebody. Maybe if I've touched somebody's, soul somehow by something that I've done or come in contact with, I'm such a people person anyway, so it's kind of one of those things that if I made contact with somebody and then I left some sort of an impression with them, I think that's why I'm even here.
I think that's the whole point. That's all I want to do too, is make connections and makes that way someone thinks about you in a certain situation and vice versa. I love that. How did the 2M thing, and then also don't you have your pit down there?
Yeah, I've got the twins down here, and then if that's are you talking about the new one for the restaurant?
Yeah, are we not allowed to talk about
it? Oh
it?
yeah, no. Yeah, that's he's talked about it a few times already. In fact, I think he talked about it the other day on a podcast with
the Abe Delgado.
Yeah. So it's not a hidden secret. Now people haven't seen it, so they don't know what it looks like. But it's down here, and eventually we'll get to use it. We've got some plans. I know he was talking about doing some expanding and stuff like that. So that's still in the works. Like with anything, it comes with time. So eventually we'll get to be using it. I'd like to be using it sooner than later, but you got to crawl before you walk.
And the twins, were those being used the moment you got there, or were they used ahead of time?
No, those right there, they're just sitting down at Joe Mellick, the other part of 2M. They're sitting down at his farm, so that's where we keep them.
Okay.
I'll use them whenever, and we use them for if we need overflow, if we need mobile pop-ups. In fact, we took them to Chicago when I was with Evan.
That's what I thought.
Anybody else that knows me, if they want to use them, they're more than glad. They know I'll either bring them or they can use them. It's just kind of like that shared camaraderie we have with each other out here.
So tell us about what you're doing at 2M. Are you doing everything? Is it kind of you taking over when they're not around, or like how? Because I know that you'll be. From what I heard on Abe's podcast, is that I guess I should say it's the I Crush Barbecue Show that way, because he mentioned me. Right. You'll be doing Texas Monthly Barbecue Festival too, right?
So earlier this year, the window had kind of closed, and we didn't think we were going to be able to do it. But then last minute, they called the guys, or they emailed them or something, and said, "Hey, do you want to end up coming out to Texas Monthly?" So what was crazy about that, they'd already committed to doing this food and wine type festival that's out in Virginia, out with ZZQ.
Gotcha.
Instead of pulling out of that, since I'm here already, they just decided that I'll go out there to take care of that. And so I'll be doing that with a few folks from the restaurant, which Giselle is Esaul's sister, so she'll be going with. She's the back of the house manager, so She's coming with me for that. This will be the first time she's ever been to this too. It ought to be interesting, always around. So I've been back and forth about menu items and things like that. I've got things written down, and honestly, I got to nail it out this week, just because at some point I have to commit and then get product, and I want to test a few things before I take it out there. But
it seems like the way I've talked to you, you'll be testing it like the night before, like tweaking it.
It all depends, especially because this week those guys are in they're in South Korea, so
crazy.
Yeah, so it's going to be should be a pretty intense week. To go back what you originally asked, I'm kind of like a jack of all trades there. So Dusty and I kind of bounce back and forth. So at first we were kind of doing like alternating weeks, but then we kind of spread it out, so then it didn't move along so fast. So like maybe we'll do it 2 to 3 weeks. Like he'll cook, and then I'll cut on the board up front, and then vice versa. So we just kind of switched up, and then that's to give each other a little bit of a break on one or the other. So working at 2M is kind of one of those places where you have to be kind of like multifaceted. So you have to be able to do a few things. So we kind of do everything there. We have a small crew, so you have to be able to do multiple things. So
I forget, is there other 2 cutters? Did you guys add a cutter to it?
No, it's just so before I got there, Joe originally was one of the main cutters, and then when they trained Dusty to cut, then he became kind of like the main cutter. And then so when I got there, he was still cutting, and then I jumped in, and now we share the responsibility.
Say someone's coming to 2M, what are they looking at about line-wise? I know you guys, the weekends are nuts. Like, how quickly can they get through line?
To be honest with you, like on Saturdays, since we have beef ribs and stuff, maybe an hour. Sometimes it depends. We try to go as fast as we can, and we really want to give everybody the best experience. And, you can't go too slow just because it's too hot outside. And San Antonio's a unique place for barbecue too. So the lines tend to get a little frustrating for people, and I get that. I mean, I've waited in plenty of lines.
Yeah, so have I. That's what you do, kind of.
It is, and I always greet people up front and let them know, hey, listen, thank you so much for waiting in line. And I try to make it the best experience possible for them, just because, this is our first opportunity. For some people, it's our only opportunity. to leave an impression on them, to kind of share what we do here at 2M.
What has the response been with people? Have people noticed, like, hey, Sheldon, what are you doing here?
It's funny. When I first moved out here, I had a bunch of folks that I'd worked with back in Montana that were just out here doing schools or whatnot, and I had a lot of visitors when I first got here. So the month of August was pretty busy. I had a lot of people come out and see me, and then people tell me all the time they're going to come out. So it's really cool that people want to kind of see me in this. Yeah, they want to see me in this new environment. So
I want to see you
it's
there.
really great.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. So like if someone was, like, if you were to tell someone what you love to get at 2M, is there something specific that you've fallen in love with recently, or that you're a go-to thing for you?
You know what? I'm more of a traditionalist when it comes to barbecue. So we always have snacks that we always eat. Like, I'll try to eat a little something before, and then kind of like after the line. Usually there's wave that comes through. So like at 1:30, 2 o'clock. The line shifts from like total pandemonium to it just, you have just a few people coming in. So after that time, so normally what I usually get a slice of fatty brisket on a piece of bread and do the original fold over. That's my favorite thing to get.
I love that so much.
But the fold over life is all me. And I really, everywhere I go, I have to at least do a fold over. So that's my thing. But for people that have never came and they really want to try something, you got to try the Oaxaca and Serrano cheese sausage. The brisket, for sure. I mean, those are all solid. Our ribs are super, super cool. People really love those ribs. In fact, we get people all the time that compliment about the ribs. So it's kind of like one of our hidden gems.
When ribs are special, people notice. I think I notice. I'll sometimes go, wow, I can't believe that it's not always my go-to item. It's something I love, but it's not something that, like, I wanted to go somewhere specifically for ribs if they had brisket and sausage and other things too.
Contrary to what a lot of people believe, when you work at a barbecue restaurant, I don't eat a whole lot of barbecue. In fact, when you see it all day, every day, and then you cook it all day, every day, I tend to just taste it to make sure that we're where we need to be, and that's about the extent of it. And I want to make sure that the product is where it needs to be, because that's what we're supposed to be doing here. Is we want to make sure that people are getting the best experience, and I want to make sure the food is exactly the way that 2M wants to present that to everybody. So I want to make sure that we stay within those guidelines.
Are you going to be doing? You had mentioned offhand like something with coffee with Miller. So did you go there to stage or hang out or?
We've talked about it. In fact, Dusty and I have talked about it, and he's usually yelling at me at some like way or another because I want to get over there, and it's usually on Mondays when they roast. So we talked about doing some roasting together, and so eventually I'm going to make it. I told him I think last week that I'm going to make it over there. Usually, so what sucks is on my days off, which are Monday, Tuesday, I usually have stuff jam packed on those days to try to get stuff done, and then moving into a new house, getting all that stuff set up. Just getting the initial that first push out of the way. So probably in the next few weeks, I'm going to get out there, and then we're going to do that because I told him for my new machine that I got that the first stuff that I want to push through that and really dial in is some of the Penelope stuff. And he's like, well, just come out here and, we'll roast, and we'll make sure that that way that you roast it and you'll know what you actually put into it that's coming through there. So I'm pretty excited about that. I love those guys. So I got to get back out there soon. And it's just like now that I live here, it doesn't seem like I can get over there like I wanted to. But I mean, eventually once I get the house set up and everything, I'll definitely be able to make it over there more often.
Is there any peek into the future for Sheldon? Is there anything like right now you're focused on what you're doing here? Obviously you're going to.
Oh yeah. I honestly, I just kind of let the day carry me. I really, really enjoy doing what I'm doing right now. And I'll stay with these guys as long as they let me or whatever. Who knows? I really don't know what the future is really going to hold. It's been a dream of mine just to come out to Texas, just to cook Texas barbecue and do this and be good at it. And I really want to focus on putting out the best product I can and just refining the craft. And Dusty and I, we experiment so much, and we really try to dial in the craft that a lot of people think that you can perfect this stuff, and there's like this myth that, I mean, there is ways that you can make things as close to perfect as possible, but you're always chasing it's never ending, and every day we just spitball ideas about it. What if we change this? What if we change that? If we cook this differently tomorrow? And that's what's great is when you.
That's really cool. See, that's nice to hear.
Yeah, and that's crazy because all of our minds work that way between Esaul and Dusty and I. Our minds are always constantly trying to just refine the process. And that's really what I like doing, is working with like-minded individuals, and it's exciting. That's why working with Evan and Brad and those guys, we challenge each other and we push everybody to the limits. And that's what's great, because we went out, when we were out in Chicago, we did the SOHO House, and that's one of the coolest places I've ever been.
Can you talk about that really quick?
Yeah, they got hooked up with that, and now that they're going to build a SOHO House in Austin.
I didn't know that.
So, there's going to be one going up in Austin. And I don't know if they've started construction on it or not yet, but they got connected with the main group, and so they asked them to come out. They'd cooked out in the one in New York about 2 years ago, and so this year. Yeah, it's 2018. So the first year they cooked at SOHO was 2018 in New York, and then it was right after Chicago. So this year we stopped in Jordan's place on the way out there, and then we kind of did this crazy road trip that Evan and I went on. So we ended the trip in Chicago at the SOHO House, which is one of the coolest things, because I didn't really know what it was. I know it's this little underground type club for creative people,
I didn't realize what it was for LA until it's a big deal. It's not easy to get into, and I think you have to be referred as a member and all.
And it's so Charlie McKenna, he came the night that we were there. So he came up there and he kind of explained the process to me and how it works. Okay. So if you're in the business and you can bring something creative to the table, it's not just for people that are in the business. You have to bring some sort of creativity, and that's how you get in. And then you pay. It's sort of like going into a country club. You have dues that are paid to be a part of it. And it's cool because you have this crazy. There's a restaurant up top, and then you have all these rooms where you can have conferences and just hang out, these little booths that you can just do whatever in. And it's kind of a cool setup, and it's one of the most beautiful buildings I've been in. It's very historic because it's right downtown Chicago. So we took Texas barbecue. Well, we took the LeRoy and Lewis Texas barbecue for sure, which is funny because we cook ribs and Evan never cooks ribs, so we did spare ribs. So the last night we were at the festival at the Windy City. The last night of that I think is the night we did. Yeah, because we didn't go back to the next morning. So the last night we were there. We ended up cooking all the ribs and everything to take over to the next morning for the SOHO House or whatever. So we did brisket ribs and sides and stuff like potato salad, and they did the kale slaw and everything. And it was great. It was a great experience. And people really got to taste what Texas, the flavors of Texas there.
If you were a member of the SOHO House, could you come to that event? Was that something that if you're a member of the Chicago branch?
Yeah, I think honestly, but what's cool, what I understand is if you're a member, you can go to any one of them. So it's kind of one of those places where if you're in LA and you have a business trip, you can stay in the one in Chicago. They have these little tokens or whatever that they have. And I noticed that they were giving these tokens when they were, instead of paying money to eat, then you gave them this token. So I don't really know how that system works.
So it's John Wick or something.
Yeah, it's kind of like a secret society. It's very cool though. It's for business type industry people.
Yeah, business, musicians, artists, actors. I know that I've talked to some friends that have gone to the Los Angeles one, and they're rubbing shoulders, just hanging out with people that it would be surprised that would be at there, just some of the biggest influential people in the world. Yeah,
I'm sure there's been a lot of cool deals and other things. Who knows what goes down in those places? There's probably a lot of great conversation, a lot of great ideas. And who knows? There could have been some really cool ideas that ended up turning into some sort of business.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, for sure. And it's a way for a lot of people to connect in a different capacity than at their office or at a function.
Yeah. So I guess the general idea is you can just disconnect from, your, I don't know, what do you want to call them? Bullpens and cubicles and, just your normal, office environment to kind of relax and let the creative juices flow is kind of the vibe that I got. And then, they had ping pong tables and other stuff in there, so we hung out there afterwards.
That's cool.
Oh yeah,
I'm a sucker for
ping pong tables and ping pong tables and stuff like that. So Evan and I, we were crazy into ping pong. So we played ping pong at Jordan Wright's house, and it got pretty heated. So we'll talk about that another time. But that was
that's cool.
That's a lot of fun. So we stopped in and visited with Jordan on the way there, and got to hang out with him for a day, and then kind of did a little pop up there on the way out to Chicago too. So that was pretty fun.
Oh, you did a pop up at Wright's?
Yeah. So we did. And it's funny because Evan grouped that in with that's kind of where I was going with it with the barbecue road trip because we started out and then we went day 2. I think the next morning we stopped in Arkansas and then hung out with him that night, and the next morning we did the beef cheeks and stuff over at Wright's place, and we did the barbacados there. and it was really cool getting to see that. That's the first time I'd ever been to his restaurant. So, and I've been talking to Jordan for quite a while.
Yeah,
and,
Jordan's such a cool dude too. Yeah.
Oh, that guy's he's a straight maniac, man. I love that guy.
Yeah, yeah. Like I haven't edited his interview yet that I've done, but it's like it's out there in like the best way. Like it's like sarcastic, like sarcasm on pun on. So yeah, it's so
Oh
good.
yeah, we had a blast at his place, and he kind of just he let us have run of the roost over there, and it was really fun. So we we went and hung out with him. He let us stay at his house.
Huh.
Super, super, super great guy. So I got nothing but great things to say about him. He treated us like gold there. So I'd love to get back over there one day and just hang out, work at his restaurant.
Yeah. No, I'd like to spend a couple days in Arkansas just to hang out with him and go to his restaurant multiple times in the area, just because it's just the vibe seems so cool and his hospitality seems endless.
Oh yeah, super, super great guy. So if you definitely make it out to Arkansas, there's not a whole lot else that I could think of that I would stop in Arkansas for. But
Lights barbecue.
They got the
sure.
craziest roads I've ever been on. And in fact, Evan warned me before we got there. There's like these roads here in Arkansas are terrible. And it's funny because there's just like it's just humps everywhere in the road, and it feels like you're just riding on a washboard for miles on end. But
That's terrible.
it was pretty intense. Plus, we were hauling my twins down there, so it didn't make it any better. Those things tow great, but I mean, yeah, there's only so much you can handle with the roads being bad.
Yeah, with crappy roads.
Jordan, if you're listening to this, your roads suck, man.
And let's see if Jordan could do something about this. This is maybe he could send this on to like the civic planners and they can fix this. I think he has.
He's got pull on the golf.
He does have
course
that power.
With the local senators and council members, so there's probably something that could be done.
Oh, I'm sure. And then also the resort at Paws Up. Are you going to be doing additional things there, you think?
Yeah, definitely. Scott Schaefer is he's the event coordinator for that, and Scott's a phenomenal guy, and he's the guy that books everybody that comes out there. So eventually, I'm not sure. I want to go back out there this coming year in 2020. So I'm not sure which event. I know Evan's going to be doing kind of the same thing that I did this past year. The Montana Master Grillers. I know Wayne's booked for that one already. Wayne's pretty much a staple of the place, so he's there every year. So I guess it just depends. Like sometimes he does the Barbecue U, and then sometimes he does Montana Master Griller.
Can you explain what the resort is? Because I get emails and I follow them on Instagram, but I don't quite get my brain exactly around what it is.
Yeah, they just do all these crazy events out there. It's basically
in Montana.
How people that live in the city come out. I mean, I called it a dude ranch, and people didn't know what that was. So
that's an old phrase.
It's a resort. Is really what it is. When somebody asked me one time, I just called it a dude ranch, and they didn't really understand what I meant. So I had to go on to explain what they do out there. It's basically a luxury resort for people that don't really get to see what it's like to live in like the outdoors and that kind of. You're not roughing it by any stretch of the mind, so don't let me mislead you on that. It's one of the nicest places I've ever stayed at. I mean, I lived in Montana for 20 years, drove past it a million times until I went out there, and then I really said, oh, man, this is what it's all about.
Yeah, so your photos from there were gorgeous. It looked like such a beautiful property.
Oh, yeah, it's unbelievable. So they're building a new resort that's on there now, and it should be open. They sent me an email about it. I'm not sure exactly when it's going to open, but it's kind of like, I guess it's like a newer age type place, and it's adults only, so there's no kids at this one, but it looks super, I guess you want to say like modern. It's not like the tents and everything. This one, it's got really, I'd have to send you some information on it so you can see what it looks like, but it's kind of like stepping into like this really crazy hotel, like what you would see in say like LA or somewhere. It's like super upscale. It's very cool, but it's adults only. It's adult. They call it the adult only resort, but it's on the actual property for Paws Up. So I'm curious.
You could stay there year round, but they have these events too, right?
Oh yeah, and they do things all the time. In fact, Scott spaces that out pretty well. So I know Patrick and Aaron just went out there back in August. They did the Camp Chefs, and Camp Chefs is, for the people that don't know what that is they book a chef that comes out and he goes or she goes and cooks at their cabin for a week and a half straight. So every night they go to a different cabin of people staying there. They just set the menu and they cook for the people in their cabins. So it's kind of cool.
Holy smokes, that's so you can. Killer.
So who knows? I mean, they have people that come from all over the country. So New York, LA, who knows? People come from all over the country to do these events, and so they book people year round. So the stuff that I did was more.
This was a group one, right? It was a Charlie and with.
Yeah. So the one that I did was Montana Master Grillers, and then that was with Charlie,
Wayne,
and then Andy Husbands. Yeah, he was there. And Andy and I met a few years back, and so it was really cool to actually get to sit there. He stayed in our in the cabin with me, so it was pretty cool.
He's a cool
So we
dude.
got to really get the bonds. They put us up in this crazy cabin. It's like a mansion. I don't really know how to explain it to you. It's like a 4,000 square foot cabin. It's just ridiculous. And then
Yeah, it sounds tiny. It
was
sounds
sort of
terrible.
like being in the real world of barbecue. It was crazy. You know, they put all these people together. So Carrie was with us. Carrie Bringle was in the same place with us. Yeah.
And
that
he's a
guy
crazy
just brings. Oh, that guy's insane. I love him. He's out of his mind, but he's one of my favorite people. That was the first time I got to cook with him too. So we did ribs when he was out there too. But yeah, he stayed in our same cabin, which was kind of cool.
Oh.
So you get to really kind of have these moments with people that are kind of personal, and you're not talking about business. You can just sit around. That's why I called it the real world of barbecue, because you know, if you ever saw the MTV show, they just put all these people in a room and you're real and just talk to people.
Yeah.
So that was kind of what it was. It was really cool.
Yeah, and they're putting people from all different backgrounds, but these are all different backgrounds of barbecue. That's really cool. We should create a show called the Real Barbecue. It seems like
there's an idea.
Actually
You can
exists.
pitch it. It'd be kind of crazy. Just put 7 guys in the smokehouse and see what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
You just never know. And what's cool is Andy's from Boston, so he's on multiple restaurants and did multiple cookbooks out there, and so he was kind of like the guy that I was with the whole time, because all of our stuff was, so they paired you with people. So his happened to be with mine, and then Charlie and Wayne were kind of like jumping around. And what's cool about that one is Evan came out for that one just to hang out. So how they do it is, so when you come out there, then they just give you a weekend. It's kind of like a gift or whatever. So he used his time to come back out. He just came out and hang out with us the whole time, so it was really cool.
But I'll put information for that, because that's something special. Resort at Paws Up. It's something. Whenever I get anything from them, it's something like a wish list of wanting to do, because it seems so special. And now hearing we hadn't spoken, we've just texted about that. I had not heard how great that was. That's amazing.
Oh yeah. So the barbecue U is kind of unique because they do more. It's like an instructional video. So like, I'll use this as an example. Wayne would go out and he would make sausage for a group of people that signed up for the sausage making class. Mm-hmm. So this is kind of like those small little things that people even in Texas don't get. Mm-hmm. So he goes down there and makes sausage for people and teaches them, his methods and all that stuff. So it could be beef ribs, it could be whatever. But that's kind of like, he does these instructional videos, and that's kind of like what Evan did, because Evan did it before too for the barbecue. I haven't done barbecue. I went there multiple times, but this one was the first one where I actually went and cooked with like the group of folks. So it was pretty cool.
What time of year is the barbecue U? Is that multiple times?
That was Memorial Day weekend. Oh, sorry. That one, barbecue U, is in June. Montana Master Grillers is in May on Memorial Day weekend.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, that's kind of like their first big event of the year, because it's kind of like the kickoff of the summer type event. And then June rolls around and they do the barbecue U. But they have events all the time. Ellen Bennett and those guys and the girls from Hedley and Bennett were out there, like, I think a week before I got there. They did it was kind of like this. It was like a women's chef like thing they did out there.
Oh, that's cool.
And it was kind of cool because she had never been there either. And yeah, she said she loved it. So
she's another person that she's another person you need to follow on Instagram. She's living her best life for sure.
She is phenomenal. She has the energy of, I don't know, a 10 or 12-year-old. I don't know how honestly, I don't know how she does it. She's amazing to watch, and just so talented, and everything she does is very inspirational. So I have to give her mad props, because she's just crushing it out there. I mean, I don't really know any other way to put it. I don't know where she finds the time or the energy. Like, I think she lives in an alternate universe with timelines.
I think so.
Because I don't know how she's doing it, because on a 24-hour day, I don't know how she does it.
Yeah. So, well, and she's smart, and she's surrounded herself with a lot of great creative people too. That's the way that you handle a business like that. Hedley and Bennett doesn't exist without that team, because I visited their showroom twice, and the people are phenomenal. They're phenomenal people.
I love the colors, just everything about it. Everything about it just shows this enthusiasm, and it just gets people's creative, just everything flowing. And I like that, because it almost makes you feel like, wow, I'm not actually doing work, but I feel like I'm getting so much accomplished. Mm-hmm. So it's really great to kind of see what she's doing out there. And it's honestly one of the most phenomenal frameworks I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. Sort of like what I tell people, because Esaul will talk about this all the time. In fact, we're going to make a trip out there to Howlin Rays, because I try to explain to him the vibe that Johnny and the crew at Howlin puts out.
It's so smart.
It's the most unbelievable thing. And I know we talked about Howlin Rays before, but I can't just I can't tell people enough. The vibe there it's like this drug, and I don't understand. It's hitting on all cylinders. The music's playing, and people are excited, and you don't even think about the line when you're in it. When I
No,
got in there,
or
it's just phenomenal.
and the staff, he's empowered the staff to be creative and to make them stars in their own right. But it's so smart, and the food that they're putting out is consistent and perfect. And my brother is the pickiest person in the world. Pickiest person when it comes to meats and stuff. Like, he's so different than me in our food taste. But he goes
Right.
there. He's been there probably 40 times. Like, it's his favorite place to go, and he loves sitting at the bar because then you interact with the staff and with Johnny.
Oh,
And,
it's great. The open kitchen environment it's intimidating, but the environment that they've created for it is just unbelievable. And the command and response that goes along with it. I tell Esaul all the time that it's something you have to experience, because the open kitchen format is just, it's scary for a lot of people, but
yeah.
what they do there is so great. It's just the greatest vibe. So Johnny he's another one out there that's very inspirational to me. I just love what he has created and the passion and the environment. It's something I long to be a part of, and that's why I think what we have at 2M it fits in that framework too, because it's a small, like, tight knit group, and most of the people that I have interaction with out here, that's kind of how it is, and I love it because that's how creative and that's how things just happen. It's just beautiful. It's just a dance, and I love it.
And you're putting out some of the best barbecue in the world. Like, it's just, and it's because you are so passionate. Like, I think that's what's so special. And it's like you've come to, like, the Howlin Rays of Texas, essentially.
I love it. And you know what's funny now is I've kind of rolled in, so I make a different set list every day for the music. So when people come in,
Nice.
That's kind of been like something that I started, and I really enjoy it. So I try to come up with really great. San Antonio is a little bit different as far as music. I mean, you could get away with it in a lot of other places. So I really try to make the set list for each day. They're all different, but the set list for each day is kind of like on the vibe of the crowd. So when you get in there and I get it, people are hot, people are tired, or whatever it may be. So if I have some sort of uplifting music, and
That's
I
cool.
play, I mean, I'm a music fanatic, so I
You
go
are.
deep. I do the deep cuts, and I go deep in the archives to pull stuff out. I have people, if 1 or 2 people per day they finally make it to the cutting block, and they're like, "Wow, man, I haven't heard that in 20 years. I forgot all about that song." And that to me is a great part of it too, because I want to be able to
That's a
kind
gift
of bring
too.
back those memories.
Yeah. No, that's a gift because they'll be listening to that the next week, or they'll pop it in. They'll be like,
Yeah.
And I think that's nice when and also, music sparks so many memories, and it's visceral.
Oh, yes. It's definitely something that we associate. It's like food. You associate it with so many things, and some of your greatest moments of your life are rolled into music and food. So for me, it's a home run, and I really want to make people have that great experience.
Well, that's awesome. And I'd love to, I could do this another hour, but we're at 40 minutes now, so it's going to be 40 plus another hour, but I don't care. It's
I was
awesome.
going to say that's that's not a quick update, but I'm
It
long-winded sometimes. I like to talk. So
No, but this is great. I think this is like, it's more about, who you are. And it's about what you're doing right now and where you are headspace wise too. I think it's important.
yeah, we're trying to put out the best food consistently, and we're going to expand, and that's really we want to make this something that everybody can have one day. So that's really what the goal is, to make a lot of people happy.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Sheldon. Thank you for taking the time, and thank you for doing what you're doing at 2M. And I can't wait to visit you and meet you in person. That would be nice too.
That'd be great. So yeah, Texas Month will be here soon, and then who knows what's after that. So
Exactly. All right, cool. It's interesting because, like, I want to talk about when we do our discussion, which will be kind of like just chatting essentially. But I want to know kind of like what your thoughts are on, like, the barbecue world now and how things have changed, because it's changed a lot, even the last 5 years or 4 years.
Oh, most definitely. There's a lot of things growing.
Yeah.
A lot of people getting into it. And there's a lot of people getting into it, but there's not a lot of people doing it maybe the right way.
True.
But I think some people are just kind of what I call Pop-Tarts. They get in and they get out. So I'm hoping, we find that more people are going to get into it because they're passionate about it and kind of put that love, because those people are going to get picked out really quickly if
sure.
they don't show the kind of love that it deserves, really.
Yeah. I think you'll see a lot of people that are doing it just for money, that just think like this is the next trend, almost like the poke things or the whatever, or like a yogurt shop.
Absolutely. And I hate it because sometimes sometimes people get into things for the wrong reasons, and barbecue isn't one of those, at least in my opinion, because there's so much hard work and it's such an art and a craft that goes into it. It's really hard to get into something like this and then just kind of walk away. But then you get people that buy into it and they find the right people, and then sometimes they can buy the names to get into it, or they get kind of a little small toehold on it for a little bit, and then they find something else. It's, I don't know. It's one, you know what I mean? It's
For sure.
It's business sometimes for some people, as opposed to the people that are very passionate about it.
Well, and you probably we've seen it even back 5, 10, even 15 years ago when a lot of the chains popped up, and there's certain Texas barbecue chains that have covered the country, when we know that the quality isn't there, but for some people this is their only view of Texas barbecue, which is kind of sad.
Oh, for sure. I had a buddy of mine that lived in San Antonio for a while, and he was stationed there at Lackland, and I didn't get to see him for about a year, and I went up to visit him. And I've been telling him the whole time, I said, bro, you got to get out. You don't realize where you're at. You're in the Mecca. And this is as Aaron and everybody were getting kind of that momentum. And I said, you have to go and try some of this other stuff. And he'd only had Rudy's. And then finally, I took him and another buddy of mine. I took them on their first barbecue crawl, and it blew their minds. And then after that, they just never have been the same when it comes to barbecue. Now they've become sort of, I wouldn't say snobs, but on the other hand, they know how to pick out the good as opposed to the just kind of mediocre stuff.
Exactly. And I've had friends that have traveled to Austin for South by Southwest, and they've come back to me and they've said, I've tried these 3 places, and part of me inside of it, like, it hurts because I know that there's really good barbecue, and they've gone to just a couple chains and maybe a place that's just a touristy place that I'm not going to name names because it's not nice, but
Sure.
who am I to say that they like this is better than California barbecue? Well, at least it was 10 years ago. California barbecue is starting to get elevated, but yeah, I try not to look down on anybody's choice of barbecue. But once people have something really good, it's just like almost anything. Once you have really good food, you realize, wait a second, there's something different.
Oh, yeah, you can always pick out. There's something really unique about what I'm experiencing. You can tell that people put a little bit extra into this, or they take a little bit of extra time, or whatever it may be, the meat selection or whatever it might be. You can tell that somebody's put a little bit more extra time into it.
Without a doubt. Well, we've kind of started, so I might I think people will be interested just in that little part of this discussion. Your shirt, what's your shirt from?
This is actually an Ames Brothers shirt. A lot of people that know me know I'm huge into music. Music and coffee and cast iron and barbecue have always been kind of like my components, I guess, that kind of make me up. And so this shirt, the kind of the backstory about Ames Brothers is Jeff Ament is the bass player from Pearl Jam, and they're my all-time. I've been traveling around since the 90s seeing these guys, and I just hit 101 shows this year.
Congratulations. That's awesome. That's really cool.
It's kind of one of those things. I've been with them since the beginning, so I kind of wanted to see it through, and it's cool because when I moved to this part of the country, Jeff's from Montana. He's from Big Sandy, which is about 45 minutes from here. Well, anyway, to get to the point about the shirt is his brother owns this shirt company, and it's called Ames Brothers. It's kind of a spinoff of his last name, but they do a lot of merchandise and artwork for the bands. They do a lot of the posters. They're really great artists, but they have these really cool shirts that they do that aren't just run-of-the-mill type shirts. And so I've got a huge collection of those, and they're kind of neat.
I know what I'm going to be doing that right. Is it AIMES or AMES?
No, AMESBROS.
Okay.
Yeah, they have some really cool stuff. They make some really, really awesome shirts are kind of my big thing, but they make a few other things, but their artwork is just phenomenal. So they do a lot of really cool, interesting things. So it's kind of been something I've been on since they started.
Do you have some of the old Pearl Jam concert posters, the paintings and stuff? Do you have any of those?
Oh, absolutely. I have a huge collection of that stuff. I've got some of them up, some of them I don't. I have so many that I need to get framed, so I'm kind of behind on getting those. And I don't know. One day I'll get them all up when I get settled, because I'm only here for about another year, and then I'm moving. So I'm probably my final place. I'll probably get that set up, everything set up anyway.
Well, let's talk about your background. Where are you from?
So I was originally born in Pasadena, Texas, which everybody kind of knows it's from the Houston area. My father was in the construction business, and he was out there during the big boom for the oil and so forth. And so we only lived there for just a short amount of time. Then we moved back to the Gulf Coast, where I grew up in a little community in between Pensacola, Florida, and Mobile, Alabama, actually. And so I grew up there until I joined the Air Force in probably 1999.
Okay.
And I've been in Montana since then, since 1999, actually.
So were you stationed in Montana?
Yeah, so I've been in Great Falls, Montana my entire career, which is kind of weird. I work on Minuteman III. They're the big missiles that everybody hears about. Maybe some people know about them, some people don't. There's a lot of people that really don't know we even have missiles in the ground.
They probably were born in the late '90s or early 2000s, right? I would hope I hope
Yeah,
most
and
people.
some people just don't know. They just really don't keep an eye on what's going on in the world, and maybe that's a good thing. Sometimes it's good to turn a blind eye, but then
Just
a lot of people have no idea what actually is going on sometimes. But yeah, I've been here since then. Well, since the end of '99. So next year I plan on relocating. So it's kind of cool that I got to stay here because obviously we don't work on missiles in every state. So there's only just a few states that have them. And so it's either here or Wyoming or North Dakota. So this, to me, was the best choice out of the 3 states.
Well, could you talk about really quickly what you do for it? Like, are you down deep down in like a big like a silo thing? Or I don't even know the term. I don't even know the
Yeah,
proper term.
definitely. Yeah, you actually know the nomenclature. It's yeah, we work down underground, and so yeah, we go out and we actually do all the maintenance on those
Okay.
missiles, take them apart, put them together, and stuff like
Are they
that.
massive?
So
Or are they? Can you put your arm around
oh,
them?
they're pretty big. Yeah, they're really big. I don't really know how to explain how big they actually are without going into too many details,
But you
but
can't put your arms around them. They're bigger than.
oh, absolutely not. No, they're way bigger than
It's
that.
not like something like this. Like you can carry them out.
No. It's way bigger
Yeah.
than that. They're pretty massive. So
Wow.
it's kind of a cool job, but it's like everything else.
It's a job, right?
You go in and do your job every day, and you try to do it to the best of your ability. At least that's what I try to do. Some people may get a little complacent, I guess, but
Yeah.
that kind of comes with every job, to be honest
Yeah,
with
oh
you.
no, without a doubt, and it's hard. At least fine for me. It's hard to stick to like the enthusiasm to a certain type of job because after a while it becomes just like a monotonous thing. If it's something, that's why barbecue is always. I've always come back to barbecue. I've always been passionate. It's just something when you get that bug. I think with barbecue, at least I'm sure. And then when did you get? Did you grow up cooking? Is that something your family did?
Yeah. So my grandmother was a professional chef, and she cooked in a lot of different kitchens. So I kind of grew up watching her cook. That's where I don't do just barbecue. I cook a lot of other different things in a lot of different other ways. That was kind of one way. I learned a lot of things from her, baking and stuff like that. I don't really do a lot of baking though. It's not really my thing. I enjoy it for certain things, but as far as barbecue is concerned, I had an uncle from Greenville, North
Oh,
Carolina, and as a little guy, I grew up around the burn barrels, and I kind of picked up the bug from that then. And I really didn't understand what I was doing when I was little. I would stay up with those guys for a while and watch them
okay.
cook, and it was kind of cool. And I knew that I really enjoyed that type of thing. And so all through high school and stuff, I was really kind of just doing different types of barbecue and grilling. Grilling was kind of the thing that really got me kicked off to jump into the barbecue scene. So the North Carolina style, the vinegar-based stuff, that's kind of what I grew up with because in the lower regions of Alabama, where I grew up in the Gulf Coast, everything's all pork-driven. There's not a whole lot of beef in that part of the country. So ribs, pork, and pulled pork sandwiches and so forth. That's what we grew up with, and it wasn't until I really got interested in what was going on in Texas. That's kind of what changed my whole viewpoint on
Were there
barbecue.
any specific barbecue joints when you were younger that you went to in Alabama or Mississippi or those?
There were a couple. They weren't anything spectacular. There was a place called Smokies that was in Pensacola, Florida. I kind of worked on and off at a radio station there in the 90s, and they were right next door. So
Oh,
it was really convenient to go over there and get stuff. And they would give us leftovers when I would work over there in the evening sometimes. And so it was okay. But then at that point, nobody was really doing anything really outstanding. It was kind of just like, the Dunkin' Donuts guy. Like, we're just going to make the donuts this morning, and, we're just going to put food out for
yeah,
people.
yeah.
It wasn't anything spectacular. The sauces are very sweet. It's Alabama barbecues on a really different scale. The guys down at Big Bob Gibson's, they're doing some really cool stuff because everybody always asks me about the white sauce, and I always tell them that's a northern
Yeah, without a
Alabama
doubt.
thing. We didn't ever see that where I was growing up at, but I've had it, and it's definitely cool for certain things.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. Now, you had mentioned, I want to go back, you mentioned burn barrels. A lot of people across the country wouldn't even know what a burn barrel was. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, so the ones that we had were your typical burn barrel. It was just a 55-gallon drum with some holes drilled in it and a couple of pieces of rebar stuck in there. and you would just burn you throw your whole logs in there and burn the coals down and then shovel the coals
Out the bottom, right?
at the bottom. Yeah, and so they've gotten really creative. I've kind of created a really cool one that I'm going to be using here, in the next few months. They get better and better as progress. It's something very simple, but on the other hand, you make it convenient out of just kind of trial and error. But the ones we had back then, we had like a decommissioned. It was a propane tank cooker, and it was huge that my uncle used, and it took 3 people to open the lid on that thing. But you would shovel the coals in there. For the people that don't really know how that type of hog cooking goes, because there's different types of hog cookers out, but traditionally that's how we do it, just like they did in North Carolina.
It's interesting because I think the only time that, like for me, because I didn't really know what the term was, I had seen them, but I think burn barrel I had heard from Making a Murder on Netflix. There was they kept talking about the burn barrel, that they had put somebody in a burn barrel. I'm like, what is it? I don't even know what that means.
Right.
Do they have something to burn people?
Well, my grandparents also burned all their trash growing up in the part of Florida they lived in. They don't have, because they lived out in the country, so there's a lot of times where they don't have people that come pick up your refuse and so forth. They just had burn barrels, and then other things they had to take into, there was like a dumping site that you could take things to. So a lot of the easier stuff, they would all the paper stuff and the goods, they would just burn that stuff in a burn barrel. So I just kind of grew up around those. So I kind of, and a lot of people don't know that type of living because people from the city, every other places in the United States, that's kind of maybe not common practice.
And also too, did they have a propane tank?
The one that we cooked on was a decommissioned propane tank for the hog cooker.
No, but in the ground, is that how they got? Is that how people? Like how their home was? Did they have a propane tank in the yard?
They did, but theirs was above ground.
Yeah, okay.
I don't really know why the difference of having them maybe out of convenience, because here in Montana, sometimes they're buried underground and sometimes they're sitting above ground.
It's not because they freeze, but maybe it's not because
they do freeze here, but the ground doesn't freeze like that. Now, where I'm at, it freezes 6 to 7 feet down here in Montana. So I could definitely see why people don't do it here, because my father has sort of a green thumb, and he was trying to give me some of these Seven Sisters roses one time, and the ground can only freeze maybe 1.5 feet down, and I was going to bring them here because they're some of the most beautiful wild roses you've ever seen, but they wouldn't survive here. So that's one of the downsides about living here. You can't really have a lot of that cool stuff that I grew up with in the South.
You need things like trees that have long, deep root beds.
Definitely. Most of the trees here are evergreen, and so we can get into that some other part of the conversation because we don't have any. There's no wood here, so everything I bring it in from Texas or from the Central Coast of California.
Okay.
Because I do a lot of Santa Maria style cooking too.
Well, let's jump to so when you were in the Air Force, were you cooking? Were you catering? Like, did you get a bug? Like, I could do this, or were you cooking for friends, or how would that work?
So I kind of have done it all, to be honest with you. Most people that knew me first early on, I had always cooked. I would have things set up at my house. I would always grill, and then it wasn't until later on, probably about 2011-ish, I had gotten a little bit of a bigger cooker. And I was doing some bigger jobs, cooking, catering, doing some stuff on the base for people. And I would cook for our people all the time. And then I really got kind of crazy about it in 2013. I decided I was going to try to figure out how to build and do what I wanted to do.
Which was, what did you try Texas style barbecue somewhere?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. 2013, when I went back to Texas to visit one of my buddies that had left, that what I was talking about earlier. I went back and we did a bunch of places in Austin. We obviously went to Franklin's and everywhere else. And it kind of set me on that path finally. I kind of decided that's what I wanted to do because I love the offset style cooking. And I've cooked direct and I do both. And I really love doing both. So I kind of said, you know what, I'm going to stick with the more Central Texas style type of cooking. And that's kind of how I got set with that style. Is probably that last trip I took in 2013 there was really what changed it all for me.
Is that kind of when Mason Barbecue even started, or did it even have a name? Was it just?
Yeah, it started out as Mace's Low and Slow Barbecue, but for some people it was really kind of weird off the tongue. So here, barbecue culture in Montana doesn't really exist. It's only here till recently people have started doing stuff here. It's just really hard to source everything here, whether it be the beef or the wood, or even just something as simple as really good spare ribs. It's very hard to get here because it gets shipped out of the state. All the great beef goes to Texas, so all of our prime grade stuff. It took me 2 years to really start sourcing prime grade briskets, which is crazy because most people here don't really care what grade it is. They just want food. They don't really care about all the other things that surround it. So I spent a little extra time trying to get the best product because that's what they were doing there. And I said, it's really great that that's what they're doing, but I want to kind of follow and keep it kind of in that same pathway.
So at that time in 2013, were you starting to become friends with people in the barbecue business? Is that when you started to kind of, your barbecue friends grew, or?
Yes. So I went to the classes over in Murfreesboro. I've been to all of those.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about those? Because I'm so interested in those.
Yeah. So the first one I went to was the business of barbecue, and that was when I met Amy and Mike for the first time. And I'd already, I'd kind of known what Mike had been doing for many years, but it was kind of similar to how we cook in the Southeast like that. And
so that was just so people that don't know, it's 17th Street Barbecue, Murfreesboro, Illinois.
Absolutely, Mike and Amy Mills and the whole crew there at 17th Street, they put on a really good production there, and they've got a lot of cool stuff that they do. They teach you kind of the ins and outs of things. They've got a really cool setup. If you want to set up a restaurant, they have a couple different things you could look at, and they kind of take you through the whole restaurant side of things. Wow. And I went through the catering class as well, and I did the whole hog, and that's where I met. For the first time, I had met Sam and Pat and Wayne, and Adam Perry Lang. All those guys were there for that class that I went to. John Lewis, all those guys were there for the first time.
Right there. That's amazing. Like Sam Jones, Pat Martin.
Oh, yeah. It was really cool. During the class, APL sat right next to me. It was really cool just to get to sit and kind of chat with him the whole time throughout the class. Listen to all the other instructors. Instructors. They're all pit masters, but they kind of were instructing, kind of going through the process and everything. And it was really cool getting to see that side of it. For people that have never really, it kind of just added some more pieces to my toolbox. I generally knew how most of those guys cook, but just getting to see how the hows and whys of what they did, it was really cool to see them break down the stuff. And it was kind of cool watching Sam and those guys break hogs down, because it's exactly what I grew up with. And it was really cool seeing somebody that has kind of built a legacy in the Carolinas doing whole hog cooking like that.
That's invaluable. People have often asked which class to take, and they're usually the first people that I talk about, because that's something. What's the odds of you actually meeting them? You might see them at a competition, or not a competition, but like at an event or something like the Texas Monthly Barbecue Festival that just passed. A number of them were there, but that's invaluable. That's amazing.
Oh, definitely. And that was really kind of the foundation for me to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to do the whole barbecue, like food truck type thing. So, and then in 2013, I started really going forward with it. And then I had the trailer, and then I started working on the cook trailer, my twins in 2015 is when I started. It was kind of like at the end, because when I was talking to John Lewis at that one event, I was showing him the cookers I was building, because I told him I had never really had any kind of idea. I knew what I wanted, but I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. And I figured it out how to build these cookers, and I kind of just started building my own thing. And I showed him the pictures, and he said, "That's crazy that you were able to get it nailed down like that." And then his right-hand man, Philip, we got to become friends and just chatting with him. And it was really cool. Just that whole experience was something that I would, like you said earlier, it's kind of invaluable. You learn a lot of things, and you just meet a lot of cool people that are like-minded individuals, and it kind of just springs you forward with that passion.
Was John Lewis at La Barbecue at the time, or had he already moved to Charleston?
He was transitioning at the time. He was on the tail end of things, and he was getting ready to do his restaurant in Charleston. He hadn't even, I don't even think he had broken ground on it yet. I think he was just getting started with, I think they cleared the lot, wow, but I don't think they actually started the actual foundation for it yet.
And his family make smokers too, right?
Yeah, the Austin Smoker guys. And I don't know if they're still, I think they might be on the tail end of it. I think Senior and Jimbo might be on the tail end. I think you might be right. Yeah, I think that Amy and Mike got the last 500 mobile that they built. I want to say maybe, because I don't know. I don't think they're going to be producing them much longer, unless they're done with the run already. So they very well could be.
So did you, wait, but you got to jump back. Do you know how to weld? Is that?
Oh, yeah.
Wow, you're like the Renaissance man up in Montana.
Well, what's funny is maybe I don't know how to weld great, but my father, he had all kinds of things laying around, and my brothers are way better welders than I am. So we kind of just played around when we were growing up, and we had odds and end projects laying around, and so we were just trying to figure things out. And that's kind of how my mind works. It's really busy, and if I can't, I try to figure things out. If it's something that I'm really interested in, I'll figure out every which way it works, and then I'll break it down and then try to put it back together and make it work. And I try to work on things and build things that are just going to be, I don't know, it's practical. Mm-hmm. The practicality part of it is what a lot of people don't think about, especially when you're building cookers, because you're in and out of that thing. It becomes a part of you. So every single day you're in and out of it. So if there's certain little idiosyncrasies that you don't like, they just become a pain in the butt after a while. So I try to do things that are just practical.
Yeah. So at that time when you showed John Lewis, they were 2 500s.
Yeah. So originally, I had just one 500, and I had a friend here that I worked with years ago, and he got out of the Air Force and then worked at a place here locally, and it ended up being, it's kind of a weird story. He ended up working at this Northwest Energy place, it was called. And I called one day and I said, hey, do you guys have any decommissioned tanks? Because out here there's thousands of them. You can find them anywhere, and you can find them super old. But so I just called out of the blue. I called and said, hey, do you have any tanks? And they said, no, but I'll leave a message for this guy. So he called me back and he said, hey, man, what are you calling asking about tanks for? And then turns out we worked together, and I said, hey, what do you have? And he said, I got a field full of tanks over here. You want to come look at them? I said, sure. So I went over there, and he did literally have a field full of tanks, 1000s, 500s, 325s. So anyway, I picked out one of them, and I said, you know what? I'll take this one and a 250. I started with that, and then I said, you know what? I want to build a second one. I think it would be cool to put 2 and 2 together. So at that time, Aaron had just done a dual 500. So I said, shoot, it's kind of weird because now everybody thinks I'm going to copy him. But I said, you know what? Mine's going to look different than his anyway. So that's kind of how the 500s came down, because I'd changed my mind 100 times. I said, maybe I'll do a mobile 1000. Maybe I'll do just one 500 mobile. But I knew it had to be mobile because I wanted to be able to take it somewhere, because I didn't have a brick and mortar restaurant. So I didn't want to be limited to an area.
Were you looking online for ways to do it? Like, how did you know the science behind, or did you just figure airflow and then
So I've always been a fire bug. So the theory behind fire is you need to get it in and get it out. And there's a lot of vacuum and pressure and thermodynamics that go into it. So I kind of knew it's just being able to figure out what's going to work best for the cooker. Designing the cooker and understanding what you want the cooker to do is really where people get in the gray. They don't really understand sometimes what this cooker is capable of doing. So, as far as the cooker design goes, I didn't really have any kind of formal way of going about it. I knew what I wanted it to do, and I knew how draw worked, and I knew how I wanted it to cook. And so I kind of just looked at, what people were doing online, as far as, you would see pictures every now and again of what John and those guys were doing, and the guys over at Mill Scale. At the time, they were building for the stuff that was over at Franklin's. And so I kind of took what they were doing, and I said, you know what? I don't know exactly how they're going to do it, but you figure it out. And it was a painstaking ordeal to figure out how to make those tanks together for the first time. It's kind of challenging.
Do you remember the first cooks on those guys?
Yeah, I did. I want to say the first big cook I did on them, I did briskets and pork butts in them after I'd already kind of seasoned them. I brought them home and seasoned them for about a week straight. I just kept loading them up with just I put like tallow. I rubbed it down with tallow or whatever I had at the time, and then I just kept burning them in. And then the briskets and the pork butts is the first big cook I ever did.
How'd they turn out?
Oh, they turned out really good, actually. I kind of knew what they were going to do, because within the first 10 minutes of lighting a fire, after I could see what the draw was doing, I knew that I had probably gotten it right. And after that, it's once you figure out how to get the draw right, then you're golden. But that's the hardest part.
Was 2013 when you first started cooking for the public, or was it?
No, I want to say it wasn't until about 2015 is really when I started going out and doing pop-ups and stuff like that. And it's very small scale. I do it when I can because I have a full-time job too. Yeah. So it was kind of just what I was doing on the weekends, or if it was a special event downtown or whatever. And that's kind of how I met Esaul from the Law Barbecue side of things. He was on the tail end of that, and then he left. And then I just messaged him one afternoon, and then we kind of just started talking. And at that time, he was not even at La Barbecue anymore. He was in the transitional period of trying to start doing the 2M stuff. So that's kind of how that whole thing came to fruition, and that's kind of what pushed me even harder to do what I'm doing today.
What encouragement from Esaul?
Well, that, and he's a like-minded individual. He and I have a lot of our thought process kind of works kind of the same. We kind of piggyback off each other and drive each other. He's probably one of the most passionate people I've ever met about barbecue. And what I love about that is anytime we work together, we push each other so hard. It just makes everything, I don't know, it doesn't even seem like it's working at all when we work together. So it's really cool.
So did you go down and help him with 2M?
I went down after they first opened and went down there and kind of stodged there for about 2 weeks. And I've done it kind of periodically throughout the last few years.
Can you talk a little bit about 2M? Because I want people to know, people that might not know, which I'd be sad if they didn't know, but could you talk a little bit about 2M?
Yeah, so they got started, Joe and SOO decided they wanted to open that place, and they did everything all on their own, and it was something kind of monumental, at least for me, being able to see all that come full force, because in the beginning they were doing the pop-ups, and they had, they were doing as many pop-ups as they could do, and then it just kind of ran out, and then they said, okay, we have to make a decision about doing something else, or maybe trying to find some stability somewhere. And then they ended up getting that place that they rented from their landlord, which is right down the street from the mattress store, the guy that owns the property or
this
whatever.
This is in San Antonio, for those that don't know.
Yeah, it's San Antonio. So yeah, they decided to just go with it, and that's kind of that's why I find them so awesome, is because they just said, we have a dream and we're just going to roll into it and we're going to do whatever it takes to make it happen. And so that makes somebody that's kind of on the fence. There's a lot of things that go into it. And for maybe some people it's scary, but then if you don't feel like you have anything to lose, then why not just go for it? Because you'll live in regret not going for it. And they went for it. And it's just one of the most awesome places that people either know about or they don't know about, but eventually they're all going to know about it, because that food scene in San Antonio is growing, and they're kind of on the spear tip of that whole thing, especially the barbecue revolution in San Antonio.
And what were you doing there?
So I would just help him with whatever, whether it be managing the fire, trimming briskets, trimming ribs, making sausage. These are all things that I had been doing for quite a while. So just learning what they were doing, the way they do things there, just kind of figuring out how he wanted things, and then make sure that I was keeping to the integrity of what he was trying to do at 2M. So it was kind of unique, because we cooked kind of similar, but then learning, how he does things is always really great, because we had completely different styles on how certain things are done. But for the most part, we were kind of in the same ballpark. But, like I said, it was kind of whatever they needed at the time, because I was just wanting to make sure that they got up and running as fast as possible. And they were already building the momentum. And like I said, it was in January. They opened in December. And that was in January of 2016 is when I went for the first time. And so, and then I've been back several times since then. So
wow. That's great knowledge. And what a great thing to do, and what a great experience to have that in your back pocket, that you've done that, and that, did you sleep in the pit room?
I did, actually. I've slept in there, and then I've slept kind of in numerous places, the back of my truck when I would drive there, and because at that time it was just the girls that worked inside, and then it was Joe and Esaul, and then when I would go, that would be it, because Joe and Esaul pretty much ran the cookhouse, and then during the day they would do everything else. And so I would manage the fire while Esaul trimmed, or what he was, during service, he would be inside actually cutting on the board for everybody, while Joe would do whatever else needed to be done throughout the restaurant. Because at the time, they only had like 5 people working there. They started out really small, and it's growing. But those early days, they'll test your mic for sure. And I'm just grateful to have been a part of that whole thing, to see how it started and everything. So it's been really great. And that's how I've met Evan too.
Evan LeRoy?
Evan LeRoy. Yeah, Evan and I are really good friends too, and it's really cool because during that same time I went down there and cooked with him shortly after that.
Where was he working at the time?
He wasn't working anywhere. He was getting ready to start LeRoy and Lewis, and I went down for he used to do like these little classes or whatever. So I hit him up, and then I went over, and he actually we sat at his house and cooked food all afternoon, and then just basically had conversation the whole day, and that's how we became friends. And then so every now and again he invites me out, and I'll go down there and cook with him. I got to go down. He came actually He's been to Montana a couple times to cook over this really cool ranch that we have here. And this last year, he invited me over, and I got to cook with him and Wayne Miller. And it was really kind of one of those monumental events. I don't really even know how to explain it. I still kind of stand in awe sometimes just to see if that's actually real, because getting to cook, I spent a whole day just with Wayne, and it was kind of one of those things. I don't know. I'm very grateful to have met and been able to cook with some of these people. Wow. It's just kind of mind-blowing.
And what was that? Was that at that resort, or was that?
Yeah, it's called the Paws Up Ranch. It's over close to Missoula, Montana, which it's about 2.5 hours from where I live. But so Evan and I had been talking, and I said, yo, if you ever come back out here, let me know, because nobody has any kind of, they do barbecue classes, but they don't have traditional Texas style barbecue stuff. I said, just let me know. I've got everything. And so he got a hold of me and said, hey, could you bring the twins out? I said, absolutely. So I had the post oak, the cookers, and everything. So we did the beef cheeks and everything there, and then Wayne did the beef ribs and the brisket the last time we were here, which was just this last spring. So, well, I say spring, I think that was June, July time frame.
No, I just saw something it's a resort at Paws Up, and I saw that Charlie McKenna from Lily's Q was out there, and it seems like it's starting to. I don't know if that was the beginning of the momentum, the connection to barbecue with them too. I don't.
Well, so they've kind of always tried to bring people out there. What's funny is Charlie's been out there a few times already, and he's coming back out. He was just here for Thanksgiving. He did a big Thanksgiving dinner out there, and so next year they actually invited me back with Charlie and Wayne. Peg Leg Porker, which is Kerry Bringle. He's going to be there. There's a whole group of people that are going to be there, but we're going to be doing. It's called Montana Grill Masters, so they invited me back to cook for that. So I'm pretty excited about that. But that's in next May.
Next May, 2019.
2019.
Depends on. I guess it depends on when you're listening to this or watching this.
That's true.
It could be if you're watching this now, you could be 2021. I guess you missed it. Yes. You missed it if it's that. So that knowledge that you got from Esaul and Evan, did you take that back, and like, were you cooking for the public at that time too?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. I always have been trying to refine, but being able to work with those guys, it's kind of hard to explain, because there's a different level. Like when I'm here cooking by myself, because when I run the food truck, it's just me. So I have a couple of guys that have helped me throughout the years. They'll help me. I'll have one guy that garnishes and one guy that runs the till for me, but everything else, whether it be the cooking process, the prep and everything else, that's all me. I do all of that by myself. So it gets kind of hectic. But what that stuff has taught me is how to dial in and do really better with time management and trying to figure out how to get things ready at a certain time. So those are all great skills that I've just learned, and they've kept me kind of sharp. I guess you can say that. They keep me really sharp on how to maintain things.
Wow. Well, who else have you cooked with?
So I did the brisket class at Texas A&M. I've done just about every kind of educational type class out there. So that's the one.
And what is that like? Because that one looks killer, and it's really hard to get into, right?
It is. I don't even know how lucky. I don't really. The year that I decided to go, the year before I had met Robert Jacob Lerma, and I had talked about going, and he said, dude, you got to just come out and try it sometime. Because at the time, I think that same year he got voted in as the president for it. And I said, I'm going to try to come out. But that year they implemented that lottery system. So it was very random. I got selected for it. But that year was when Arnis, and that's where I met Arnis for the first time, because he had not even opened the big Eddie Mays yet. It was just, they were still in the trailer at the time. But that's where, Wayne was there. It was funny because I had just done the Murfreesboro thing, and that's where I met Wayne for the first time. And then he came to the Texas A&M for the Brisket 101 or whatever it's called. I think it's just the brisket class or whatever. But he was there for that. And so it was kind of cool because they were there within like 2 or 3 weeks of each other. So it was really cool. It was almost like I just had saw him like the week prior. But, yeah, that one is kind of a unique class because they just kind of break down the anatomy of – all things brisket, and they cook several different types of briskets, whether, it be a select all the way up to a Wagyu. And they kind of teach you a lot of the anatomy, and then Aaron will spend however long trimming a brisket or whatever. And then Jess will speak, or Jess Prowse, for those that don't know. She did some talking there. She was very interesting to listen to. She's very passionate about that stuff. And so Barbecue Snob was there. Well, Daniel Vaughn
I
anyway.
think Daniel Vaughn. Yeah, I think we've heard of him, right?
Yeah, he was there. I mean, it's the who's who, and it was really cool because I got to connect with a lot of people, and there were some people there that really just were there to. They weren't trying to open restaurants or learn how to cook brisket. They were just there because they were curious about what they did there. But it was really cool because.
Well, I'd like to go, and I don't have any plans on opening a restaurant.
Oh, it's just great to see that sort of thing because they bring it out and tear it all down. And what better place to do beef anatomy than in Texas A&M, for goodness sakes. Dr. Sable and those guys kill it over there. They're interns. It was some of the most professional learning that I've ever been to, just from the beginning to the end. They were really good about everything. And I don't know, it's very in-depth, and you can get into the weeds as much as you want, but it was a really great learning experience, especially the anatomy of just beef and briskets, like centric. It was really awesome.
So then you met Arnis there. Did you go cook with Arnis?
No, I haven't actually went and cooked with Arnis. I had just briefly had chatted with him there, and then I just drove back from Texas Monthly, and then he was busy the day I was in there, and so I didn't get to really chat with him because he was in the back talking with some customers, so I didn't really get to spend a whole – plus I was in transit, so I didn't have a whole lot of time to BS at the time. But maybe someday I can go out there. I mean, I don't know. He cooks on reverse flow, so I've never cooked on a reverse flow. I'm sure I can figure it out, but it's kind of they have a unique way of cooking over there. But
the smokers he builds with his company, are they all reverse flow?
Yes, he does have kind of a unique little hybrid that they showed me while I was there. It's kind of like a reverse flow / like grill type thing. It's kind of a unique little cooker. It's like a home cooker or whatever, but yeah, everything they cook on, they've got that giant oiler that they do ribs on, I believe, and then everything else is all on the offsets or reverse flow offsets.
Have you been to their new location?
Yeah, I've been there a couple times. The first time I drove out, let's see, it's been like it was right after they opened it. I went out there because I had to drive almost through there on my way down to Texas. Okay. So when I cross over the state line, when you get into Texas, they're kind of in a unique spot over there in the northwest side of Texas, I guess.
And that's a place that people should visit. They should. I've only heard amazing things.
Yeah, if you can get over there, that's the difficult part. A lot of people don't want to travel that far, but for me, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, granted, I live in Montana, and I'm not going to just drive there to eat. But if I'm going that way, I'm definitely going to stop. But usually, when I drive to work, it's 3 hours one way. So a lot of times, I spend 3 to 6 hours, depending on where we go each day. So driving, I really got over that really quick here in Montana because we're right in the middle of the state, so you got to drive 3 hours no matter where you go.
Oh, here. And if you're in Los Angeles, to get anywhere is 2 hours, 3 hours. So
that's
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just want to go over to the hill.
When I went out to visit Andrew and Michelle this past January, I said, "How in the world do you guys do this with the traffic?" I've been in all the big cities now except for New York. And Los Angeles, it's tough with that traffic. But you know what? I have to give them credit. They love it. Everybody that lives in Los Angeles loves it with the traffic. And I guess because I didn't grow up there like that, I just can't imagine. I mean, 8 miles away, and it's going to take you 2 hours to get there sometimes, depending on where you go. Because I got stuck in traffic for I went to Howlin Rays when I was there. Oh. And and so I got stuck there that morning. I went there to eat at like maybe 9. But I didn't know. So at the time, there was like this march thing going on. It was back in January. Like they had that women's march going on. And I got stuck there. And I had to get over I think it was only 3 miles away to get to Andrew and Michelle's pop-up that they were doing. It took me like an hour and a half to get over there. It blew my mind.
And for people that know, it's Andrew and Michelle from Moose Craft Barbecue, and they're that's it's amazing how bad the traffic. That's why you can tell that like Elon Musk wants to build all these tunnels because
sure, LA could benefit from that for sure because it's so congested and everything's growing so much bigger. And when these were originally built and the cities were built this way, they weren't built to handle this capacity of people. So they're almost maxed out, at least in my opinion. It looks like it's getting to the point where they can't really go any further.
We have highways that are 5 lanes each side, and they're maxed out.
Yeah, it's Pro 5, test your mic for sure.
Well, but it's like so like cliche to like talk about traffic in LA, but it really is getting worse.
I told Andrew, I said, man, next time I come out there, it's not even worth getting any kind of like Uber or Lyft or anything because no matter what, you're still going to be stuck in traffic.
Yeah, you want to be at least like you can go side roads with take Waze and you can see the city, and it's a beautiful city. I've gotten to know it a lot better just because of Waze, but it's kind of sad. But it's interesting and it's funny too because I'd always wanted to talk to you, and then Andrew kept saying you got to talk to Sheldon. You got to talk to Sheldon. So part of the reason why I even wanted to talk more to you was because of Moose Craft Barbecue.
Yeah, they're doing some really cool stuff out there, and it's kind of cool because they're kind of in the beginning phases of the revolution that's happening in LA. And it's about time that California is starting to move up, because most of the stuff that I've cooked from California style is all direct fired, grilled ribs, everything. And brisket didn't really exist. It was all tri-tip. And so the kind of stuff that I was doing was all, Santa Maria style, which is all tri-tip over open pit grills, over red oak coals. And that stuff definitely has its place. And I love that kind of traditional Santa Maria style.
Yeah, it's when it's done right, it's fantastic.
Oh, it's unbelievable. It's definitely unbelievable. And the simplicity of it is what just makes it even better. But that's just like most your Central Texas style barbecue. The simplicity of it is what's made it so great. And people try to overthink it sometimes, and you just get right back to the roots of what it started at. It's really cool that they're kind of there in the beginning phases. I mean, there's a lot of people doing it. And honestly, the California scene within the next 5 to 6 years, who knows where we're going to be at with that, because I don't know, unless they get really strict on restaurant laws. And I don't know. I don't know how Bert's doing it yet now, because I haven't seen his new restaurant, which I saw some of the stuff of the other day. I don't know how the back of it is, and I don't know how they're going to really accept the kind of offset.
Yeah, Bird at Slab, which just opened this time. It was November 22nd or something. But he's not using his offset there. He has to use a rotisserie because of the laws, and especially where he is on 3rd Street. There's restaurant after store. It's pretty tight.
It looked like a smaller area, or kind of like a little outlet kind. I don't know. I don't really know.
He's been texting Andrew and Michelle and myself photos as he's been testing this for the last 2, 3, 4 weeks, and he's trying his best to replicate what he had in the offset. And he's doing a really good job. I tried it, but it's not easy.
Yeah. I mean, it looked like it was going to be pandemonium, because I'm sure there was a lot of people hyped up and ready for that to open finally, which is cool, because I like any of that stuff that's happening. I think it's really cool when the whole Central Texas type thing starts branching out. It's really cool seeing in some of these other cities that this Central Texas style barbecue is really amazing. It's starting. Yeah, it's a testament to the state and the history behind what barbecue was, and how it's just kind of it's evolved into something I never thought it was going to be. And it's mind blowing to me to see where barbecue is, because 10 years ago, I would have never thought that barbecue was going to be where it is today. I mean, I've always been a fan, but I never knew it was going to be. It's almost like going to rock concerts sometimes when you go to these places. You see people that, wow, I just saw this guy on this video, and oh my gosh, look, I mean, this guy's famous. He's one of the best pit masters in the state, and it's really cool just being able to.
Well, it's funny too, because I'll tell my friends that aren't as passionate or into barbecue as I am that I just talked to blah blah blah, and they'll to me it's like I can't even I'm out of body sometimes talking to these people. Like I'm talking next week to Rodney Scott, and I am like, that is like, I just can't believe it. Like, but like my friends would be like, who
just coming off that James Beard Award is, I mean, for barbecue is just monumental for everybody involved with barbecue, because that just goes to show you it's not just something that people just throw together. There's artwork and craft behind it.
And Rodney just is a great person, and it's like these people, and a lot of these guys that you're dealing with and I deal with, they're some of the best people that I've ever met in my life.
Oh yeah, it's crazy when most of us get together. Anytime it's, any of us, it's kind of like when I just came back from Texas Monthly and getting to see everybody there. It's like going for like homecoming, getting to see Leonard, getting to see Dylan, getting to see Lane, all those guys, Reed from Guess, all those people just running into everybody, Clay. And it's crazy because you're trying to get work done, but then every time you turn, there's somebody else coming to talk with you. And it's just, I don't know.
It's really neat.
I have to step back sometimes and pinch myself, because it's just mind blowing that I've been presented a lot of these opportunities. And it's just, I don't know. I love each day of it that I can be more and more involved with it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And a lot. It's funny. A lot of people I've said that I'm going to be talking to you, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I love talking to you. He's such a great guy." Like, because we've only just communicated online, and we've never.
Right.
So what's the future hold for you? What's coming up?
So I can retire this next year. So May or June. I'm probably going to relocate to Texas and kind of see what happens there. I'm working on a cooker right now. I've got 1,000 gallon that I'm building, and for most people, they probably can guess where it's going to go. But it's going to end up going to 2M. It'll be probably maybe one. Maybe I'll build another one some other time. I don't know. I just don't really have the time to do it. It took me almost a year to do the twins. I just really don't have the time. So, and I build other stuff too. I built some really cool grills and stuff that I just like really fooling around with here at the house. So after I'm done with that and then I retire, it's probably going to be Central Texas somewhere. And then
do you think of a restaurant?
I don't know. I don't know that I'm going to do that. I'm probably just going to go work in the business. Maybe find some places that I want to go work at and see how that works. I just want to be involved with Texas barbecue. It's always been a dream of mine just to cook in the Texas barbecue business and to just really be a part of that community like full time is really what I want to do.
And that's great. You don't have to open a restaurant to do that. You can work lots of places.
Absolutely. Dylan did that stuff too. He's kind of just like the traveling pit master. He kind of goes around and works with everybody. But that to me is kind of really cool that you can go out and work with all these different types of people. But then at some point you just got to reel it back in and figure out what you want to do. And I don't know. I think for me, I'm just going to go and do wherever the wind carries me, to be honest with you.
That's great. So, but who knows? Maybe after 4 or 5 years, you might say, I want to, or maybe open up something small, or just do some, maybe do catering there too. Who knows?
I mean, it's the sky's the limit, really. You can get and do everything you want to do over there. So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to kind of see where I'm at in 2 years. I'm not going to change the way that my drive is. I definitely want to be a part of it, and just being over there, I'm really excited about being over there and being able to just see and visit with everybody and be able to just be able to cook great barbecue is really what it's all about for me.
Probably closer to everything.
Oh yeah, and what's crazy is when I go over there to visit, I end up going to all these different places anyway. So actually being there and trying to get to all these places once I live there would be a lot easier than trying to cram a bunch of stuff in, because I try to go and visit everybody when I go.
It's tough.
Sometimes it's almost impossible because you got to go to Houston, you got to go to Dallas, and so you got to jump around everywhere.
In my head, I can't even figure out where I want. Like when I do visit, because of this and because I've met so many people and want to visit so many people. Yeah, it's almost like you're gonna make some people upset.
Yeah, you got to come up with a real good short list and kind of stick with it, because I mean, I don't know, when E and I go, E and I and Joe, we usually go on big barbecue crawls when I come down there, and we'll just make a short list and we'll say, okay, we're going to go here, and then just kind of just drive, and then wherever we end up, we want to make sure we go visit the people that we want to go see, and then just kind of see everything in between.
What's your hat? Make cornbread, not war. Where do you get that?
What's funny is I have a lot of questions about this hat. This hat is super old, but since I'm from Alabama, there's a company called Billy Reed. He's like a well-known clothing designer, but he's from Alabama. And so I remember when I was leaving, he was getting really, really big, and being from Florence. And when he came out with his hat, I have a shirt that's with it too, but I couldn't tell you where it's at. It's probably destroyed at this point. This hat has been with me since the beginning, so it's super seasoned now. It probably smells like a lit log on most days. It's what I cook in most of the time. So anytime I go to Texas, I take this hat with me. And everybody, even when I went to Howlin Rays for the first time, Johnny, when I walked in, he saw that hat and he made a point to talk with me, which that place is just mind blowing. It's still to me and I've had every type of hot chicken from Nashville across the United States. By far, Howlin Rays is knocking it out of the park. But he made a point to say, hey, come here, let me ask you about that hat. And then we did. It was kind of weird because he said, hey, let me show you how we do cornbread in LA. And he pulled out like this giant piece of cornbread and like broke it in half, and we dunked it in some collard greens, and we kind of like cheers to it. And he's like, this is how we do cornbread here in LA. And I said, man, that was pretty awesome. But I'd been in line since like 9, and that was like at 2:00 in the afternoon. But once you get in there, the whole vibe that place is just, it's a modern marvel to see actually what goes through that place. The production, everything about it is just phenomenal.
Yeah, if you come to Los Angeles, you must visit Howlin Rays. It's in Chinatown, and what's nice too, if you follow them, if you're on social media, follow them on Twitter. If you tweet them, they'll tell you it's half an hour, 45 minutes. Generally, it's 2 hour wait, but there are times a day, and they're open later in the day now. So if you go later in the day, you could probably not wait as long.
I want to say when I was there, they had just started doing either a Tuesday or Wednesday. The last time I went, I actually met Andrew there. I was leaving on my way out, and it was like an hour and a half out of the way. I drove an hour and a half out of the way just to go there and eat again. And then Andrew met me for lunch because I said, I have to have this one more time because I didn't order enough the first time. I got a Sando, and I think I got like a couple of wings or whatever. And you've been in line all day. I wasn't sure what to expect. I said, man, I can't believe I'm waiting in line this long for chicken. And I've waited in line for barbecue for plenty of time, but I'd never waited for hot chicken. And it was worth every wait. I tell anybody that's going to that area, if you don't go, you're doing yourself a disservice, because everything about that place is just phenomenal. How it's ran, how the vibe is. It's just a great place to go.
And it's like the way it's an open kitchen, like it's almost like a sushi bar, so you get to see that. But it's the hot Nashville hot chicken sandwich. People don't understand, like, and I didn't even understand how good it can be and how satisfying it can be. And it's funny because last night I saw on the cooking channel, Best Thing I Ever Ate, and they were talking about, it was I think the batter's box where you get a number of different items. It's like a big, it just made me so hungry, it made me so sad that I wasn't there.
There's just so many places doing really cool things, and what's crazy is the food scene in LA is so broad that it's kind of hard to pick one thing. But I said, you know what? I'm going to Howlin Rays because I've been following them since they were in the food truck. And I said, I have to have this stuff. I've been watching this way too long just to not try it. And so I made a point. And what's crazy is I went on a Saturday, which is the waffle day. And the line was just stupid. When I got there at 9 a.m. and they didn't open till 11, I believe, or something like that. Yeah. But the already out the front where, when you come in from the one side where the parking's around the corner right there, it was already out the door all the way. And they burn through the line as fast as they can. They kill it. And so honestly, I didn't have anything better going on that day other than going to that pop-up. That's what I went to LA for, was for Moosecraft barbecue that day for their pop-up. And so, it was not a big deal to wait. I don't know. I'll wait in line for good food. Anybody that knows me or anybody that enjoys good food will go wait in line for it. It's just a way.
You got to do it. You got to do it. It's something that
you got to do it, because if there's a line, then there's a reason why there's a line, because especially with the service, the food, the quality, everything they're doing there is just a home run. And their crew is it's one of those just tight knit crews that's just mind blowing, that you can have everybody that has that buy-in of that dream. And when you have people that are that passionate, you can't ask for a better work environment, and that's all you can hope for. And that's why I love working with all these people in Texas. It's the same thing, like-minded individuals that feel that passion. It's just, there's so many great ideas and so many things that are just explosive when you work with people like that. And that's what I love about just barbecue and food. Food brings everybody together, so it's just
without a doubt. And it's people like Amanda and Johnny at Howlin Rays, or Andrew and Michelle at Moosecraft Barbecue, or Arnis and Mallory, or Leonard, or Esaul, or all these, like, you can tell that not only are they passionate about what they do, but they want to lift other people up too, and they want to give an amazing experience. And with that experience, they're also trying to better people. It just feels, you can just feel a difference. Than just someone just slapping together like a burger shop and just saying, like, I just want to make some money, which, good, like, they can do that. People can do that too.
And I'm, like I said earlier, I'm just very grateful that those guys let me come in, because it's one of those things where you don't really want to let other people into it sometimes, because you don't know their intentions. And for me being an outsider, somebody that lives thousands of miles away, for them to let me come in and just be a part of that and be friendly and just we've become, I don't know, everybody that I'm friends with now in Texas, it's a family now. And it's really, I don't know. I have to just stand back in awe sometimes, because it just blows my mind that I'm a part of this, but I live so far away. But it's just great to see these guys grow. Everybody, seeing them from the beginning to where everybody is at now, is just mind blowing to me. Everybody's doing so well. It's just great.
And that's what makes me so happy. And that's what makes me so happy to talk to you, because you're so passionate, you're so knowledgeable, and that's why they love you, and that's why they're friends with you, because of your passion and the integrity and the person that you are. And I think it's going to be exciting for people to follow your career, because it'll be interesting to see, like, what you're doing, and because I'm sure, and also in your road is not going to necessarily go the road that you think. It'll probably jive. It'll be interesting. It'll be really, I don't know the proper term. It's a little really.
Yeah, who knows? It's great, because after I'm done with this job here in Montana, it's kind of like an open book. I can kind of go and do what I want to do, but I know what I'm going to do, and I'm just going to let the breeze blow me wherever it's going to blow me. And I'm really excited about where I land, because as long as I'm in some sort of cooking capacity where I can cook and just be around people that enjoy cooking, I think that's what's really going to be what's really going to keep me going. I don't know. We'll see what happens in the next 2 years. I think in the next 2 years, I'll really get it dialed in what I'm going to end up doing. But I've met some great people down the road, and it's really awesome.
That's awesome. Well, Sheldon, thank you so much for taking the time, and I know that people are going to dig this, and I'm sure that after this, you'll probably get a lot of people reaching out to you because it's just this was great, a great talk, and I'm sorry it's taken so long to get this together, but I'm so glad we did.
Oh, that's no problem. It's great to finally sit down and get to chat with you because I know we've been talking about it for quite a while, and it's really awesome. I really appreciate you reaching out to me. I love just chat. I can chat about music, barbecue, cast iron coffee. We didn't even touch on some of the other stuff I'm involved with, but that's okay.
Well, we could do a part 2, and also too, I can't wait to hang out with you next time you're in LA or next time I'm in Texas. We'll try to coordinate. I would love to go eat some food and drink some beers and hang out.
Absolutely, that would definitely be awesome.
Get some coffee too.
Yeah, that's a whole nother rabbit hole right there for me too. So and it's funny this morning because Dusty Miller.
I was going to ask you, have you been to Miller's Smokehouse?
Well, no. So I've kind of been with those guys since they started their coffee journey too. And it's funny because I was just chatting with Dusty a few weeks ago, and he sent me some of his new. He's kind of got that inceptional place that he's building. He's working on right now, Penelope, and he sent me some of their roasted beans that they're doing over there. And we were just chatting about it yesterday, sort of like with Amadeo too. We're all good buddies, and so it's funny. We chat so much about coffee. It's kind of like switched over from barbecue to coffee now because those guys, they're doing it really cool though because they have like the dream setup over there, and I've got a home setup, but they've kind of just went above and beyond, and now they're doing roasting, and that's a whole nother rabbit hole. I don't have time to get into because I would love to do roasting, but on the other hand, it's just one more thing that I don't really have time for. But the stuff that he sent me is really great, and so they're going to do some other stuff too. Trying to think, he sent me some. It's a Guatemala that he sent me, but it's really good, and we were just chatting about it yesterday.
That's so cool. I love what they're doing. I love it.
It's great, everything they're doing over there, and that's such a huge place. I don't know if you've ever been there.
That's tough because that's on my list. I need to go there.
Yeah, their original location was cool, but this place here is just unbelievable how big it is, and it's awesome to where they've grown to. And now they've got this coffee bug. It's just great because they're doing some really cool stuff over there. And so we were talking about the coffee, and we never even spoke about. I only ground half of it, and then I let it rest for about 2 weeks, and then now we were talking about the different flavor profiles because I don't know. I said it tasted completely different. Because I've been pulling shots with it the last couple of days because I've been blending. It blends really well with eggnog. I do these crazy eggnog lattes all the time, and it blends really well with milk. Wow. So I don't know. 2 weeks is kind of the cool window for that one, but that's for another time. I can talk about.
I would love to. Let's like in a couple of weeks. Let's talk. That would be an interesting because that's and it's funny too because I was talking to Dusty about how barbecue pairs really well with coffee.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And see, Aaron did it right back in the day. When he had the little coffee shop outside the corner, around the corner from where Franklin's is, he did it really right. And I don't know if that place is still there or not. Last time I went, I was just there chatting with Andrew, and I don't think it is either because I haven't seen anything about it for a while. But yeah, they were doing it right. It was kind of cool because you could sit there in the morning, and it was great because you could get your espresso or whatever you wanted that morning while you were waiting in line. And it was kind of a cool idea. But yeah, we could talk all this other stuff. I don't know. I can get into the weeds when it comes to this stuff.
Sadly. But it's if you're passionate about it, that's why. Well, cool. Well, have a great weekend.
I really appreciate you reaching out. I really do.
Thank you so much, and enjoy your weekend. Yeah, it was great talking to you.
Thanks, brother. You too.